We'll have to take questions, help you, and build whatever you need. More beer, obviously, and food.
Can you explain a little bit more about the next jump business itself?
So you'll see that in the entire deck, I didn't even talk about what we do. Because if I told you what we did when I started the company 19 years ago, we made print guidebooks. Then we went to build employee discount programs. And the company has grown, and what you do will change. No different than Apple didn't start making iPhones or iPods or iPads. And who knows what they'll be doing 10 years from now. What the company does will change. But the DNA of the company has always been the same. We take care of our people, and we have a DNA of helping others. Now, where we are heading right now is that we are the largest provider of corporate intranets. Technology to run corporate intranets. We're the largest provider, and we're partnered with 90,000 different HR departments. 70% of the Fortune 1000. And we built an interesting model. We give the software away for free, and we monetize it through an e-commerce marketplace. We have a marketplace of 30,000 merchants. It's bigger than Amazon or any other store. And when you shop at that store, we get paid a commission for everything that's spent. And why this is so important is if you look at the national spend in the country, or any country, the Fortune 1000 company, their employees, and the company spend is the lion's share of all spend in the country. As we become the gateway to all that spend funneling through, it's a pretty powerful business. It took us 19 years to build the 90,000 integrations into companies. 70% of the Fortune 1000, huge databases that we manage and software offering. So, but I believe the business will keep evolving and changing. And in fact, a lot of what's happening now through the corporate intranets is we're starting to actually just give away all our culture. How to do performance evaluations, fitness programs, nutrition programs, recognition programs, incentive programs, everything we do in culture, we're literally giving it away to our clients to help them run their company better. And in exchange, they have their marketplace, and when people actually, we have a virtual currency called WOW Points. So everything they do, whether it's fitness or whatnot, they give WOW Points. The only way to redeem the WOW Points is through our marketplace. So all roads lead to the marketplace eventually. Other questions? Yes?
So,
sorry.
What do you think of competitive cultures?
Competitive cultures?
What do you think?
So it's an excellent question because we face that exactly. Because think about it in sports. And sports is a great parallel for business. You've seen individuals who get competitive in sports teams. And you can be competitive, but when you get competitive people who are arrogant, it literally tears apart the organization. The best sports players are incredibly competitive, but have a level of humility that lets them collaborate, partner. They'll let somebody else take the shot as opposed to they have to be the ones who's the peacock who takes the shot. In 2006, when we started hiring the best of the best out of engineering schools, we literally copied Google's formula for hiring. There's a thumbs up, thumbs down process, multiple interviews, and we found the brightest, most driven people out there. And as we brought the best of the best, what we found was that it was an incredibly arrogant group, and we had to make this painful decision of letting them go. And so we looked at the remaining third of the engineers and said, what's this trait where these people are successful, but they didn't have the arrogance? We found that they had humility. A lot of people think humility is about meekness. It's not about being quiet. It's not about being meek. Humility is about being open-minded to the idea of others. Being able to fail and learn lessons as opposed to fail and then hide it. Humble competitors are the best. Like, in fact, they're the best competitors. You ever see like games like tennis where they will compete and someone will help someone to make the competition more equal leveled and then still compete? I don't know if you know what I mean. Like in sports you see this where someone will help the competition and then still compete. That's humility, to go help your competitors. So competition is awesome. You'll see we compete in everything in the company. We compete from fitness. We competed in how to drink more water during the day, to dance competitions, to who goes and slip and slides better, to who like does better, coding and releases. We compete in everything. But when their humility is there, it's awesome. When it's not, it's disastrous. You have a question?
Yeah, so thank you for a great presentation, and I really enjoyed hearing how your background affected the culture here at Next Jump. I was wondering, is there anybody, and it could be a person or a company or a charity or a government, that you'd like to give a megaphone to now in particular? And then you explained that you explained very well that how the noble in particular, although Athos in general, could be a megaphone and put to good use for a living person, or more of a static reward.
And so this will be besides giving us the megaphone, right?
Of course.
So there are two people I've met who I've admired a lot in how they build culture. One is Tony Hsieh from Zappos. And the other one is a guy you probably have not heard of called Bob Chapman, who runs a 7,000 person company in the Midwest called Barry Wayback. They both have different views and definitions of culture. Tony Hsieh defines his culture as his product culture. They say they don't sell shoes. We sell happiness. And someone said that, one day we could even be an airline because we're so good at driving happiness. And that's how they define their culture, what they create. Bob Chapman, I consider him like a lost brother to me. I'm 40, he's turning, I think he's like 70 something. The average age of his employees is 58. Ours is 28. He's St. Louis based, Midwest, and they make literally beer cans, cardboard boxes, like pure manufacturing. And his culture is all around the fact that everybody matters. He spends all his energy showing that every individual in the company matters. He has bought 59 companies today, like broken companies. Terrible companies, broken and destroyed. He has not sold one. The value, they're doing over $1.5 billion, I think, in revenue. He has had a year-over-year growth rate for the last 20 years that beats the record of anything Warren Buffett has touched. Still a private company. I love what he's done. And in fact, Simon is helping both Bob Chapman and NextJump get a megaphone to what we've done. And I love that we're on opposite ends of the spectrum. Because people will say, well, you know what you do can only happen in startups, only in the tech space, only with young employees. And Bob Chapman's shown the exact opposite. And I think these dual dimensions are important. Or otherwise, everyone says, only for the old, only for the young, only for the private, like the different examples. So if I had to give one myself, I'll give it to Bob Chapman. Great question. Another question?
I guess I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on how culture is being instilled right now in, I guess, some larger tech companies? And also, I used to work at a bank, and it's completely different. Why is it only in the tech space that there's so many good in startups, et cetera?
So, once again, this is an excellent question, because to understand the question, you have to almost go back in time to the origin stories of how the tech startup community really took off in the first dot-com boom. The idea of leaving, and it was very young people leaving, jobs at banks, jobs everywhere, to go create the startup frenzy in the 98, 99, more 2000 dot-com boom, was that you're going to run companies differently, right? Like, it's where the term technologists start turning to engineering. And the difference, I think, is that technologists take orders, specs, and you code. Engineers are given world problems, business problems, and then they solve it, and you trust them to go and figure it out themselves, make mistakes, and iterate and learn. And there is this view that you will start to trust your people. But as any field, when too much, once again, the abundance, capital goes in, the tech space, I think, sees culture as giving free food and fancy colors on your walls. Blue paint, red paint, free food, culture. Who gives more free stuff and perks is culture, and that's not what culture is about. You look at the older companies, I say older, like more established industries like financial firms. I think they still are working in a manufacturing mindset. Like, although they're in a human capital like asset service, their people are highly expendable, and they treat them that way. The way they fire, the way they bone. I mean, it's like it's not putting human capital first and foremost. So I do believe it's a change, and we are absolutely at the cutting edge of it. But I think the world is changing fast, and I look to individuals like yourselves to not join companies that don't do this right, because ultimately the talent will dictate how companies have to change. Other questions?
Just building off of that, one thing that we've been taught, like at school, is not everything's about entrepreneurship. There's also the idea of intrapreneurship.
Sure.
The difference in a huge company. So I guess what are your thoughts on how you can establish yourself in a huge company and I guess maybe grow a team up?
So you know what's interesting is when I started my company, I used to be the president of so I went to Tufts University. I was the president of a student organization there. And if you ever know how student organizations work, you have it at Cornell right now, the president does everything. It's all volunteer staff, right? And nobody else does anything. So I said to myself, I cannot wait till I have a company, right? And I pay people. They're on my payroll. They will do everything I need them to do. Because I can't wait till it's no longer a volunteer organization, but one that I get to pay them. And you know what I learned the hard way over the years? Employment is voluntary. Meaning people can come and just do the job. Or they can go and give it their all. And you can't force people to give blood, sweat, and tears for you, for the company. It's their choice to do it. The best example is like a local restaurant. You ever go and it's not about the quality of food, but something, you don't even know what it is. Amazing service. And imagine a restaurant owner saying, I dictate you give love to these customers. I will watch you on video camera if you don't show love. It doesn't work. They have to choose to do it themselves. So, in terms of kind of how I went, like I went because I wanted to be boss. And if I'm boss and I'm paying people, everyone will do what I want. And I realized that it was not about me. It was about servicing them. In the Marines, you know what they say? They have a sign in the cafeteria that says, officers eat last. The job of a leader is to serve others. So, keeping that in mind, right? I don't think it matters whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you're an entrepreneur, or you're just a leader in any organization. But the two things that we've seen that really matter is this. I mentor a ton of entrepreneurs in New York City, like many different sizes, and 10 employees to 150 employee size companies. And what I've seen is this: a lot of them burn out. And the number one reason why they burn out is they stop growing. They flatline their own personal growth, and everything they knew was done. And oftentimes they end up leaving their companies, and the venture capitalist comes in and puts in a professional CEO. And so I get asked the question, when's it time to have a professional CEO come in for you as an entrepreneur? So I rephrase that question and ask people, let me ask you in terms of your family and your parents. When's it time to get new parents? When have you outgrown your parents? Maybe they can't teach you anymore, right? So if you ever become a parent, you have to think, when is my kid going to say, it's time for new parents because I can't learn from you anymore? Your value is done. Or maybe you can grow. You can grow as a parent. You can grow and learn more, and so you have more to share and teach to your child. So growth is vital. If you don't grow in life, you will burn out. The other part is this though, like you can't just grow selfishly. The fulfillment you get of helping other people. There's a slide I took out I was going to put in. Picture this at the end of your life. What do you want on your tombstone? When you're done, right? It's kind of grim, but when you're done and you're at your funeral, what do you want on your tombstone? Is it going to say, I have 3 houses, 2 cars, right? One of them really fast? Or is it like handbags, shoes, property? Because I've never seen a tombstone that has a list like that. The inventory of the stuff you've accumulated in life. The best tombstones talk about how this person has helped so many people, served others, was a great mother, a great father, a great leader. Like those are the things that you want to see in your tombstone. And that's a telltale sign, since all human beings eventually lead to that. It is about ultimately servicing others. But you can't help others unless your cup is overflowing, which is your growth, for the purpose of giving it away, in essence. So, I know I'm not fully answering your question, but I think when you do that, no matter where you are, you will innovate. You will be happy. You will love what you're doing. And when you do love what you're doing, you do the most amazing things. When you don't love it, it doesn't matter what you are given in terms of money, perks, food, doesn't matter what, you just won't do a good job. Other questions?
I wanted to ask your thoughts on how do you keep a culture from falling victim? If you build a company and say you have this great culture, you want that to thrive, you kind of stay on path, but
Yeah.
things might change.
Absolutely.
How do you avoid
So
falling into the trap?
you know what's fascinating in culture? And this is such a good question, because if you ask anybody, what is culture? Just go ask people, what is culture? And you'll see this pause, because nobody knows the answer to that question. What is culture? Everyone's like, I've heard, like, Fortune 1000 companies and the CEOs, it's like a feeling you get when you go into a place. I mean, that's what it's that important. It's a feeling. And some people say, well, it's the norm, the normal things in the company from the beginning. Remember the movie, what's the movie? Few Good Men? Is that Few Good Men?
Oh yeah,
Right?
mess hall.
And you remember, like, the whole question about, like, where's the mess hall? It's not in the rule book, right? And everyone just knows it. There's a thing with culture where, like, it's the rules in the company, they're unwritten. When do you get into work? It doesn't have to be written. Everyone just gets in around this time. When do you leave? Everyone leaves around this time. What do you do for lunch? Do you eat at your desk alone? Do you eat together? Like, what are the things you do? Like, when you go out with coworkers, do you, just drink soda, or do you, like, it's these unwritten rules. And they say that as a founder, whatever you start doing at the beginning, right, your family in essence being built, these rules just get baked in over time, and it's almost kind of like kismet, and by accident it just happens, right? Like families. You ever go to dinner in families, and some families were like, oh, I love this family. Other families are just awkward. I can't even put my finger on it, but just awkward tension at the family dinner table. So it's so important, yet everyone leaves it undefined. So what we learned with the help of Jim and Simon was this: you need to define culture. Now, if you define it too rigidly, like a recipe, it doesn't work. So you need to declare intent. The idea of better me plus better you equals better us. Literally, these are the workings of the best people in this field. Every person as a human being shares these two things. It's like fill your cup and then overflow it to help others. Then fill it back up. Like it's a cycle. It's better me feeds into better you, and back and forth. And when you define and put on your walls your intention and how you're going to invest in culture, the beauty is if you don't do it, you're a liar. So you put it on your wall, so you have to do it. Then the evidence is important, which is what Simon Sinek will call the what. The why is in the middle, the what is the evidence. Anything you can see, touch, you can measure is a what. And when someone says, I'm on a diet, it's really like, let me see the last 10 things you ate. Chocolate cake, piece of pizza, right? Chicken wings, ice cream, health bar, celery sticks. You're like, you're not on a diet. Like, most of the things you ate were bad for you. But if I said, let me show you the last 10 things I ate, even if I had chocolate cake once out of 10 times, you'd say, wow, that's a diet. The consistency of your evidence. And as you document and post it, and by the way, the lesson of documentation we got from preschool. My son is 4, went to preschool. Do you ever see preschools at the beginning of the school year versus the end? If you remember it all, the walls are covered with all this great stuff the kids do. And imagine going to a preschool and they're like, we do such great stuff. We digitize it, we take pictures, and we store it away. You can see it on our website, and you're like, but the whole place looks empty. You don't believe them, right? You don't until you see it. The evidence and the reason the walls, you can't avoid seeing the walls. So, declare your intention. And the better me, better you is a human intention formula, and then document and document and document. And what it will do over time is when you do something, people will say, oh, that's why they're doing that. That's a better you program. Why is our CEO spending time during the busy window talking to, a class from Cornell? Oh, that's better you. Why, why do we have a gym, and why are they so focused on getting me healthy and fit? Oh, that's a better me. And it just provides context and relevance to everything. So that's what we learn in culture. Yet it's highly undefined today, and we're trying to change that through our, hopefully, megaphones. Brett, you have a question?
Going back to something Andrew was getting at, can you share with the group what you do to encourage your workforce to spot problems, solve them, recognize opportunities, whether it's the way you currently do business or a brand new business opportunity? How does that sort of percolate?
Absolutely. So I think the part that you have to first work on is it's a great question, because there's a precursor problem usually to trusting someone. You have to allow failure. A lot of companies are built where there's such a high degree of fear around failure that ultimately you can't try stuff. And you know what people do and why politics and bureaucracy, you have to consensus everything. Well, even though that thing didn't work, everyone said we should do it. So how do you build an organization that sees failure as an investment? We call it investment in loss. You have to invest in losing before you can get better. And so we built it into the culture and the mindset. We celebrate some of the worst mistakes. And so that becomes usually the precursor. And then you have to actually sit there, even as a leader, and hold yourself back if someone makes big mistakes. I'll give you just one example from years ago, like over 10 years ago versus what we're doing now. 10 years ago, we had an individual who was doing email marketing, sending it to millions of users, made a mistake, and literally crisscrossed all the fields. And so if you were at Morgan Stanley, you get an email saying, Bob, wrong name, right? From Goldman Sachs, here's your account and what you can do. And everyone got mixed up in the millions of records. And our phones just lit up. I mean, the HR department's like, what the hell are you doing? Data security, I mean, crazy stuff. And this individual sat there all day, had packed his entire desk, getting ready to leave. And just waiting to be fired all day. At the end of the day, I actually went up to this individual. His name was Yakov. And so I went up to Yakov and I said, Yakov, like, big mistake, right? He said, yep, bags are all packed. And I was like, you think we're gonna let you leave? You know how to make that mistake. You're the one who's gonna help us prevent that mistake from happening again. Because you know better how to make the mistake and the cost of it than anybody we have in this company. And that was not what everyone expected in the company. The thing we've done recently is this. We've taken a pretty bold step where a lot of companies outsource customer service, right, from Arizona to South America, all the way to China, right, in India. We started to insource customer service, and in fact, every phone line in this company is becoming a customer service line. We built a project called Bigger Hearts to practice empathy, and every customer service inquiry coming to the company can be viewed by every employee in the company. Anyone can jump on and respond to anyone. So I can respond saying, here, I'm helping you. By the way, my name is Charlie Kim, the founder of the company. Here's my phone number, my extension if you have more questions. Every employee can see everyone's response and score how empathetic they were in helping that user. And we have leaderboards now running of who's the most empathetic for the day, who's the most empathetic for the week, and you can see how everyone's responding. And the criticism that will come is this: Charlie, what are you doing, right? These people are paid a lot. You can outsource this stuff for $5 an hour, less in some countries. Why are you getting such highly paid individuals to deal with this? What we found was this, and especially in technology, which is a heavily male-dominated field, and men tend to lack empathy more than women. So without empathy, you innovate like crazy, but you innovate on stuff that nobody cares about. And I mean, and look at tech. I mean, the general notion in tech is 90-something% of the features are no use. In fact, it's a nuisance, all the extra buttons and all the extra things, because some person, usually an engineer, right, decided this is so cool. Watch how this thing works. I shake it and do this, but it doesn't help humans. And so what we found was the key to innovating actually was learning how to be empathetic. And it, just like a character trait, takes practice. So as our people start going in and working on customer service, they start to feel like, oh my God, this is actually a lot harder than I thought, in terms of like what the users repeated making mistakes on. And they start to go in the code and they start to change it at the source now. And so what seems like a menial task is now being embraced by our employees, and they're going in and they're making the product better. I believe, and we're seeing early signals, that they're innovating in areas that actually matter to our customers, to people, versus sitting back and saying, in my conference room, I have the coolest new technology to add in as a feature, and it's going to be awesome. And it actually just makes it worse. So I guess just some examples of really trusting and letting people do things. But you need to design the environment correctly. Otherwise, what tends to happen is, it's almost like, you ever meet children who've never been parented? Like, good parenting is putting enough guidelines and rules, but not so much so it's rigid. And you need to let them grow and develop and fall. Like there's a lot of studies around this. If you look at children who are in playgrounds, like little kids, who never fall because parents are always catching them, these kids grow up with so much fear, they can barely do anything that looks remotely risky or innovative. The kids who fall are the ones who succeed. Jim Lear's seen this in his camps too, where the athletes that come to him, what he said was that 50% of the time, these are young kids, starting at like 6 and 7, going all the way up to 19, half the problem on their failed ability to grow to the next level in professional sports is actually the parents. 50% of the time, it's the parents that he has to coach. It's the issue. And he said that the parents who just let the kids be, gave them money to go on the bus, they fell and did whatever they typically do, those kids turned out normal. Parents who are like intense, like they turned out to be all the issues. So we see it very similarly.
What do you think that education needs to do to sort of leave the manufacturing business?
So if you look at education, I'm hoping, and once again, I told Red and Dan Huttenberg and President Cornell, like we want to help as much as possible. You have to get to individualism. And it's not an individualism versus conformity. Like education still is built heavily around how to get everyone to be all similar. And how do you design education to basically create individualism? And what we found, once again, the two most important parts was around how to help you grow, and then how to help teach you the muscles to help other people. And it's amazing if you ever teach a course, if you ever TA'd or helped anybody. That's the moment you realize how much you don't know. And you know what it does if you keep teaching and you really want to help someone? It creates motivation, this inner drive. Like, I need to learn more. If you ever donate to charity and you love what you donate to, you're like, I need to earn more so I can donate more. This is the better you actually makes you more motivated for a better me. And then it keeps cycling. But in the better me, as I said, what we found was this. Human beings make repeated errors in life. And the worst ones are the thematic ones. I mean, you make a mistake and you're like, God, I did it again. The same kind of mistake shows up thematically. Different by person. And it's never technical. It's almost always psychological. You look at we've spent years watching individuals in a company make slip-ups and document them and watch what they were. It was consistently around psychology, not technical. In the psychology, the slip was consistent by person, but different by person. So we're building tools and programs, the character imbalance, to help course correct that. And education doesn't think us like that. So we're hoping to help. Especially, I love the Cornell campus. It's a brand new school, right? You guys are the beginning class. Like, you get to set the culture of the school. Even coming back, I'm sure you'll be invited back to talk about your experience and talk to the class, right? Like, you have the ability to actually form the culture of a brand new school in the best and biggest city in the world. I mean, it's a pretty cool thing that's happening.
He even got to suffer through my course this semester.
Yes.
I'm wondering, how can we as individuals exercise that characteristic?
Of which one?
I guess either one, humility, confidence.
So, what we found, at least in, so Jim Lear discovered something fascinating. And he learned it by going to Spain to visit bullfighters. If you ever see a bullfighter, like matadors, the confidence they have is incredible. And these bulls, these huge animals, can actually sense fear, sense insecurity in like a heartbeat. And so you watch the way they walk, the way they hold their head, every move without hesitation, complete confidence. And so he spent time with them saying, how the hell do you do that? Right? These are bulls. You're going to die. How do you do that? And so he developed what he calls the matador walk. The matador walk, he found psychological training actually starts on the outside. You train outside in. How you train physically translates to how you become psychologically inside. And then he started seeing the pattern in two types of runners: marathon runners versus sprinters. You ever see someone who's a lifetime marathon runner? Marathon runners conserve energy. I don't know if you know a lot of marathon runners, but everyone I've met, they're very dull, very flat personalities, because you're always conserving energy. But you meet a sprinter, the total opposite, exuberant, spending energy like a drunken sailor, because physically that's how they train, and it translates psychologically. So the easiest way to start actually is through physical training. But then on the psychological front, you have to run to your fear as opposed to running away from it. You have to run to your fear, meaning if you actually are scared, right? Say you're insecure, right? Or even arrogant. Like, do the things that make you uncomfortable. Because the number one reason why people actually become insecure, arrogant, which by the way, they tend to be very similar in nature. The most arrogant people are actually insecure deep inside, and insecure people can actually show arrogance eventually. What you find is most of us become that way because we care about how other people see us, right? You can't make fun of yourself. Like, do you ever, I don't know if you watched, there was an interview, I love this interview with Kobe Bryant recently, and he was asked about Dwight Howard. If you ever see a picture of Dwight Howard, this guy's like a beast. He was supposed to be one of basketball's best. Turned out to be a complete dud so far. And so Kobe Bryant talked about something else, and in the middle of it, just goes off. You know the problem with Dwight Howard? He thinks too much about his stats and how everyone sees him. And he says, just play the game. Stop thinking about what everyone thinks of you and just play the game. Most of us get crippled with that. We show arrogance because we want to look good in front of everybody. We act insecure because how everyone's looking at us. So learn to make a fool out of yourself. One of the ways we do it in our company, we have a holiday party every year. Every person must dance. Literally, you have choreographers, you have to practice, and you train to compete in front of the entire company and dance. And I'm telling you, like, with 75% engineers, I mean, I don't know how great a dancer you are or you guys are, but it is torture. This is like this is real torture because you look like an idiot, right? You're that bad. We hire choreographers, so you get better. But in the beginning, it just like it brings the worst in people. But what we found fascinating was this: the way you practice is critically important, because a lot of people practice only on the game, or what I like to call on the table versus off the table. Poker is a great example. To play poker well, I'm sure a lot of you guys play poker, right? But, if you play poker, you need patience. Patience is one of the most critical elements to win in poker. So people try to practice patience at the table. But this guy, Josh Waitzkin, world chess player, what he learned was this: if you want to become patient, practice off the table. Go to the longest buffet line when you're starving and let people pass you by. Practice patience. Find the longest elevator line when you have to go. Like, practice patience. And when you practice off the table, at some point it becomes like breathing so naturally that when you need to muster up patience at the moment of critical stress at the poker game, in the most critical hand going all in, you can do it like this because it's so ingrained in you. So practice off the table everywhere until it feels like breathing, then you'll be able to muster it when you need it for whether it's revenue, business, career, the most important stuff too. So people think we're crazy making them dance, but there's a reason. People think we're crazy and all the other stuff we do, but there are all these tests and reasons. So